Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast. I'm Max Hayes, your host. It is nice to be back as we talk about Forest progressing through to the next round of the FA Cup, a place in the FA Cup fifth round for Forest, a home tie to Ipswich after finally beating Exeter City in what felt like the longest game of football I have ever watched on the telly. Even the ITV news was delayed. It was that long and it went on for that long. We don't make it easy. That was the old Forest back, maybe. We will discuss that game and look ahead to Fulham, joined by Sam from the Tricky T-shirt business. Sam, good to see you, mate. How are you? And you were just saying to me you were actually close to going to Exeter. Thank the Lord you didn't, because the Forest fans had a interesting journey back, I heard. I spoke to Dave actually today, podcast regular, and said, do you fancy coming on? And he was PTing in the gym all afternoon, but he didn't get back till the early hours of the morning. So I do feel for anyone that went last night, mate. But yeah, how are you? And have you recovered from watching the longest game of football ever?
Yeah, just about. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Like you say, I had the chance. I could have gone yesterday, but with work, I decided against it, and I think it was a good decision because I'm not sure I'd have made it to work the next day this morning. So yeah, it was a crazy game. Well, a very long game of football, and yeah, I do feel sorry for those that had to travel back late last night. I hope you got a few hours kit before work or whatever this morning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I do feel for people, especially if they were at work the next day. It must have been, I think, one of the longest journeys I ever had back. I mean, there's been a few, even back from the City ground up here, but one of the worst I ever had. Forest were away to Arsenal, if you can remember it, in the Carabao Cup. It was when we kept drawing Arsenal around the cup competition. Sabri Lamouchi in charge, and Forest got spanked 4 or 5-0. And there was roadworks on the M1, and I can just remember being sat at, if you've been on the M1, the Amazon warehouse, and I was just sat there. And I can just remember, well, I wasn't driving, but my dad was, and my brother went to sleep in the back of the car, whereas I tried to stay awake and keep him awake. And I can remember being at school the next day, and it was unbelievable, like 2 hours sleep. So there we go. But it's all worth it in the end. Forest are through to the fifth round of the FA Cup and a nice home tie against Ipswich. Sam, let's talk about the game, shall we? I mean, a lot of changes for Forest, as expected. Taiwo Awani being one of those, which we'll get onto in a minute, and of course his injury. I'll read the team out just so we are familiar again. Carlos Miguel starts in goal up until that injury. Alex Moreno, Toffolo, Bolly and Eric Da Silva Moreira at the back. It was then a midfield partnership of Sangare and Ryan Yates, Danilo behind Taiwo, and Ramon Sosa and Jota Silva on both of the wings. So pretty much Forest's what you'd maybe call B team at the minute. And I mean, it was a pretty poor start, and it reminded me a little bit of the Newcastle game actually in the Cup earlier in the season. Carlos Miguel with a bit of a mistake there, but yeah, what do you make to the game overall? And you did feel a little bit nervy at the start when we went a goal behind.
Yeah, I thought we got over those goalkeeping mistake era of Forest with Matt Sells coming in and steadying that ship. But no, it was a bit of a poor start, and it was a bit of a shaky start from Miguel particularly. So yeah, it's always one of those places where you just don't want to go and concede early, because it makes it difficult for yourself. Obviously, we responded, I think, really well. Not letting it get to our heads, not letting the atmosphere that they created kind of get into our heads, and they came back and created chances and scored a couple of goals in the first half that really kind of got us back on track. Yeah, they're always banana skins. You've seen this last round. There's teams like Liverpool have gone to lesser opposition and really struggled, and I watched the Man City Leyton Orient game as well, and they were superb. And it's these sort of games, the media's around them all week, and for the players like of Exeter, that it's a cup final kind of thing for them, and they're always going to be so up for it. So as a team going there, you have to be willing to match that energy and that kind of enthusiasm to play. And I thought we did in spells, in other spells of the game, we were kind of lacking a little bit, and maybe just kind of took our foot off the gas a little bit. But at the end, we managed to scrape through on penalties.
Yeah, absolutely. Forest do pretty well on penalties, actually, as far as I'm aware. I mean, they've obviously lost to Newcastle on penalties this season, but other than that, we've done all right. I remember beating Wolves in the Cup when we had those, and then obviously Sheffield United in the playoffs. So always feel a little bit confident with Forest with penalties. But you're right, Sam. I thought from my perspective, I thought Exeter played really well. I thought that they were just up for it from minute one. You could tell it was a cup tie. They were happy to have, a big TV studio in half the stand, and Roy Keane was there and Ian Wright, and it was ITV's main game, and it did feel like, which is odd to say because we'd have never maybe said this a couple of years ago, but it felt like Forest were the big boys in town, and obviously no disrespect to Exeter at all, a good side in League One. Hope they do stay up as well. They're not far off the drop zone, and I thought they played well. I just thought from minute one they came out with kind of tenacity and passion, and it's what you want from a team that, and it goes to show really, there's so much talk, isn't there, in the modern day game about, can teams beat Man City, can teams cause upset in the Premier League, can the bottom team beat the top team? There's never an easy game in football, and if the players are up for it, and sometimes on that pitch and that field, it can just become 11v11. So thought Exeter played really well, so full credit to them. I'm not sure on the amount of injuries they tried to give Forest. Was a bit worried, especially in that second half, mate.
Some interesting tactics for them as well. I was kind of expected to be a bit of the opposite, and in terms of like you go to a League One team thinking it's going to be they're flying into tackles and stuff like that, but they were just hitting the deck constantly, weren't they? It was that lad that came on, and it's funny, the commentary team were making light of that. About, I think it was every time he touched the ball, he went down and won a foul. So it was an interesting one. But you like you say, talent can only get you so far, and desire and work rate is a massive part of what wins your football games, and they really competed because of that pure desire and energy they had. So fair play to them. I know that they've been struggling a little bit in the league recently, so hopefully they can use this and pick up their league form, because by the looks of it, they deserve to be up there challenging in League One.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was laughing. Not to name drop, but at uni earlier today, they had Clive Tilsley that came in and did a bit of a talk, and Clive was talking about kind of not maybe being given many games by ITV, and he was shocked that maybe he didn't get Exeter Forest, and he said he got to Real Madrid, Man City last night to commentate on it for CBS Sports, so the American almost equivalent of BBC TNT. No, absolutely. That's what I was saying to him during the talk, and he said he got to the press room and he was looking around trying to find Ali McCoist. Of course, those two have got a brilliant relationship, and he was going to people, "Where's Ali? I thought Ali would be doing this game." And someone went to him, it was about 10 minutes after he was looking for him. "Oh no, Ali's down in Exeter doing Forest Exeter." And Clive said he messaged him and said he was still on his way back this morning, so they'd stopped over. So there you go, just a bit of a funny story about the tales and travels to Exeter, which we'll remember for years to come. Let's talk about Forest bouncing back, Sam. It was a bit of a relief when Forest equalised. Ramon Sosa, of course, on the score sheet. Bit of a keeper error, but he did well. And the ball from Sangare, of course, was excellent as well. Just to highlight those two, I thought out of all of the squad last night, you'd probably pick, if I had to pick three, I'd probably pick Taiwo, Sosa and probably Sangare for your standouts, really. I thought particularly from Sangare, I'm sure you agree, the balls he was playing were excellent, and I don't know, he just looked like a new signing, and you just wonder what's to come from him now. Hopefully, we build him back to kind of full match fitness in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's you could tell yesterday he was kind of cut apart in that midfield. He was on a different level. He's still not quite at the level that I think he can be. And I think that maybe that form that he had when he was at PSV, I think he's obviously a phenomenal footballer, and he's been very unlucky with injuries, and was it malaria he had? I think whatever illnesses he's had. But yeah, he's obviously had a tough time with that, and he's come back and he's just trying to rebuild that fitness and that form again. So yeah, if we can get 100% Sangare fit again, then we've got a fantastic player there. So just hopefully his recovery and he gets more minutes. And I think I saw some stat that he's provided quite a few, 3 assists in his last 45 minutes of football or something like that. So keep him fit, keep him getting minutes every now and then. I don't think he's necessarily one that's going to straight back into the starting 11 for the Premier League fixtures. But he's if you get him ready, he can be a real threat. And I thought Sosa as well. I think out of the two, out of him and Jota Silva, I think you probably compare those two the most, because they're the kind of the peripheral wingers in the squad. I think Sosa looks like he's offering a lot more than Silva is at the moment. I just think he looks more of a threat. And yeah, I think he's definitely someone that we should look to keep on the books for the next couple of years and see how he develops.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. No, really good point, and especially about Sosa. I think he's a player that you'd hope would almost improve. And we talked about it the other week about Jota Silva, and not in a critical way, but Forest maybe made those signings thinking we'd be a bit of a mid-table Premier League side. You didn't expect to be maybe challenging to where we are, hence why they've struggled in the past few weeks. But Sosa looked bright. I thought he looked sharp. I thought he looked more energetic on the ball, technically, as well as just pace-wise. I thought Jota Silva, he's going away on a cold Tuesday night to Exeter. Get up, don't keep rolling on the floor, Jota. I felt like saying that to him, and he looks for fouls a little bit too often. That's one of my kind of criticisms of him. So that's something that I'm sure Nuno's alluded to as well. And Nuno didn't look a happy man in those penalties last night. I don't think he even moved his face or had a single facial expression to show some joy. Did he?
Solid, I reckon.
It was a cold night. It was a freezing cold night.
Yeah.
But yeah, just staying on Jota, Sam. We have talked about him in the last few weeks, but is he someone, and obviously Forest didn't make any signings during this January transfer window in terms of wingers, so we're going to have to almost deal with Jota Silva and Ramon Sosa being the backup two in the squad. But out of those two, you prefer Ramon Sosa, and you think that kind of Jota's got a bit more to prove now?
Yeah, it's a strange one, because the start of the season, I'd have said the opposite. The impact that I saw from Jota Silva was a lot better than I thought that Sosa's was. But I think maybe that's partly down to the fact that Sosa's just taken a bit more time to adapt to European football, to English football. And yeah, now that he's kind of had that time to settle in a bit more and a few more minutes, then he's kind of got into a rhythm a bit more, and he just looks a bit more lively and a little bit more of a pacey threat on that wing. And I think that's what this system that we play at the moment with the big man up top, it suits. It needs that pace. That's why it's working so well in the Premier League with Alanga and Hudson-Odoi. It's that pace and that raw pace on the wing, and I think that's what Sosa offers you. He gets to the byline and he looks to put balls into the box, where I think I'm not quite sure what kind of a winger Jota Silva is really. I saw some funny comments actually. Some people were saying on Twitter after the game, I hope he likes gyros and can speak Greek. So I don't think it's that extreme. I think he's still got some minutes left in a Forest shirt, and I think he can still be a crucial player for us in this squad. But I think just needs to cut out the diving and rolling around on the floor, and then we'll be all right.
Yeah, I like a gyros, Sam, especially from shout out to Eva's Grill. I always see the guy in there before the game. That's probably one of the best places, isn't it, in Nottingham? I love a gyros. I hope Marinakis doesn't send me to Olympiacos. I hope I can stay doing Forest stuff. Let's talk Carlos Miguel, mate, because a bit of a poor one from him. Obviously making that mistake. He gets injured. He then comes off. He's had a bit of a shocker against Newcastle too earlier in the season. I mean, Nuno's a goalkeeper, so he'll be kind of talking to him, but it doesn't do his confidence the world of good, and obviously disappointing. The same with a lot of other players that we'll get on to. Morgan Gibbs-White, Chris Wood being two of those, having to come on, Anderson as well. You wanted those players really to have a kind of a full rest on the bench, ready for another big Premier League clash on Saturday. So frustrating that Matt Sales has had to kind of come on, and obviously full credit to him. He's done a brilliant job and he made some brilliant saves, and obviously slightly heroic in the penalty shootout as well.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate him, doesn't it? He's just solid. Like any kind of shot they had, fair play to them. They created a few chances towards the end of the game, and just Sells didn't look like he was ever going to get beaten. Like, he just looks rock solid in that goal. And I think they alluded to how small the Exeter keeper was in the penalty shootout on the commentary, and Matt Sells just looked just looked a giant. He's not the biggest of keepers, but he just looked like a presence in that goal. And I don't know whether it's like a confidence thing or whatever, but he just looked like as soon as they started taking penalties, I was a bit worried, obviously, because I thought it's a lottery and anything can happen. But as soon as I kind of saw Sales in goal, I just think, yeah, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine here, and obviously proved it that way and made a couple of great saves. So yeah, it shows how important he is. Which is a funny one because I think Miguel was probably signed in a lot of people's opinion as coming in to be that number one spot, wasn't he? Which is
it's crazy to say that now. Actually, I think we did a podcast when he was signed, and I said, I wouldn't be surprised to see Miguel as the number one. And here's me a couple of months later, not so sure.
Yeah, I can't see him starting in the Premier League anytime soon. Can you?
No, I even think Wayne Hennessy could be a bit closer, given Forest re-signing him as well. It just reminded me because I've just looked behind me actually on the calendar at Milenkovic, and I think it could be Yatesy next to him. I can't see, but I just thought last night showed defensively how much we miss those two. Yes, it's obviously. But to be fair with Exeter, for a League One side, they came at Forest, obviously scoring early. They had the home crowd. I mean, I take nothing away from Exeter. They're brilliant, and if they'd have come out victorious in the penalty shootout, we'd have given them absolute full credit. Just relieved in a way that Forest did more than happy. I think the relief was the key feeling last night. But talking to those players, Sam, you miss that defensive partnership massively. Yes, it's only Exeter. But you massively miss Murillo and Milenkovic last night, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's the leadership and just that kind of rock steadiness at the back. It's just so critical, and it gives the whole team confidence. If you've got those two just sat in there like a brick wall that no one's ever gonna break down, then it just gives everyone else so much more confidence. So yeah, they were a big miss. But I'm intrigued to see what he does for the Ipswich game, the next round, because obviously the last two games he's stuck with this kind of full 11 change, giving players a chance, players that kind of on the periphery a bit of a run out and some minutes. But we've got a home draw against Ipswich, Liverpool and Arsenal are out. We've got possibly the best chance that I can remember of us winning. I mean, we're the highest ranked team in terms of league position in the FA Cup, which is absolutely mental to say.
Yeah.
So I think there's some players that started yesterday that probably shouldn't start in the next round. I think a few changes are needed, but I also think that if we're going to go for it, then it's a difficult one because like a lot of teams do it. They rest players, don't they, in the domestic cup competitions if they're going well in the league, and it's a real tough one whether you go full gung ho and go for the FA Cup and play your Premier League's best or your best starting 11 or your rest players. So I'd hope to see maybe a bit of a combination of that. Some players in like your Ramon Sosas and Sangares and maybe even like Moreno and Moreira, the right back. Just a few changes here and there throughout the team, and then a bit of a core like the two centre halves and Anderson maybe in there, just to kind of add that talent, because Ipswich will be going for it. Like they'll be going for it as well. They've got a tough run into the end of the season to try and stay up, but I guarantee they'll be putting out their full strength team to try and go for it. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one. We'll see what Nuno does, what he values most. But yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely, mate. And I agree. Be nice to have a trip to Wembley, wouldn't it? Again, obviously the semi-finals are held there. So, and you're right, Liverpool and Arsenal out, and obviously it's Brighton, Newcastle in the next round as well. So that's gonna be another big team out. So you just never know.
But we just need Bournemouth out, don't we?
Yeah, we need Bournemouth and Man City out, and then we might be all right. We might just win the whole thing. But then if we're talking about Newcastle going out, Bournemouth we're just relying on quite a bit there, aren't we? So you never know. We'll of course do it on merit. Forest will turn it on next round. Carlos Miguel will come back, and he'll be excellent. Let's talk Big T. Why not? I thought he had a brilliant game, Sam. I thought, and look, I've said many times on this podcast and questioned many times Taiwo and his ability, and whether he's the same player that he was a few years ago. But just so nice to see him almost doing what he does brilliantly up until the injury, which is obviously, was sad to see. He's all right now. He was walking as well. He got off the stretcher and walked towards the changing rooms, which was good. There was a few pictures of him on social media and that, so that was a bit of a relief. But in terms of his performance, Sam, that goal, yes, the Exeter keeper stands there, but he took it well. He turned, he had 3 defenders on him. I just thought he looked a real threat, both on the ground and both aerially last night, and I thought he caused Exeter a lot of problems up until he came off.
Yeah, he looked like that Taiwo from a couple of years back, didn't he? That towards that end of the season where he had that run where he just couldn't stop scoring. Just a handful, and I just pray that it's kind of a confidence booster for him, and he can bring that form into the Premier League because it's in there. We all know it's in there. It's just the bloke has been really unlucky, and he was very unlucky again last night, getting absolutely clattered in the face. I broke my nose playing football when I was at uni, and I know it's not nice. You can't tell from how straight it is and how well the doctor put it back in. But
how long's the recovery, Sam? Is it just a few days?
If you get a mask on, you can be playing again in a week. You'll be fine.
Decent.
So I don't imagine he'll be out for too long.
Yes.
So hopefully it's not. It's just a broken nose and it's not too bad. But yeah, because he's important. I think with getting him this confidence is so key. I think it's vital. I thought I've seen like if Chris Wood now gets injured and Taiwo's out, I think we're not far away from planning to play Murillo up front, are we? I mean, he'd probably do a job as well, but
yeah, I was going to say. I said that last night. Actually, I was watching the game with a couple of people, and I was like, I really, really don't want Chris Wood to get injured because we would be in trouble. But there we go. Hopefully, Taiwo will be back in a couple of weeks, and even next week, and he'll have a mask on. I can always remember. Can you, Sam? It was Ben Alawan, wasn't it? With the mask on, and he scored early on. Yeah. Scored. It was the only thing he did really. He scored early on against Derby, and I can always remember. I think it was. I can't remember what Sky commentator or Gary Weaver said something. A brilliant commentary line. The man in the mask. It was brilliant. Honestly, it was a great. I can remember that Martin O'Neill was the man. I think Forest won it 1-0 that game.
Yeah,
first time we beat Derby in a while, and it was on a Monday night, wasn't it? So disappointed to see Taiwo go off, but as you say, fingers crossed, he is all good. Just talk about quickly, Sam, before we look ahead to Fulham. Kind of Morgan Gibbs-White and Anderson, and those two when they came on, and obviously Chris Wood as well. But those kind of three, the trio, if you like, of maybe Forest's best players at the minute, they made such a difference, and I'm sure the Exeter fans were probably a little bit nervy when they came on the pitch, obviously given that red card, especially from them, which was a red card all day long. Yeah,
the trio that came on, they were really good, and it makes me laugh because I think like when I look back on like past or even like recent FA Cup games and cup games where you've got a big team against a lesser league team, when they always have the changes and it doesn't go to plan, and then all of a sudden you've got the camera will pan and you've got the 3 big hitters that are all coming on the sideline. You're thinking, what must the opposition be thinking there? And I think it was probably a case there. And I think as your Exeter midfielders, you're thinking, been run ragged by Dinolo and Sangare, but we've managed to get ourselves into the game, and then all of a sudden you get Anderson and Gibbs-White come on. You're thinking, this is going to be a long game for us now. Their creative qualities were on show, and I think obviously they're a massively important part of our team. So yeah, I'm just glad that they both. I mean, I think Anderson may have picked up a slight knock, but hopefully it's nothing major. But I'm just glad that those two came unscathed, because I think without them, we're a completely different team.
Yeah, absolutely. They just seem to be in that kind of core unit of the squad. It's just so hugely influential for Forest plans moving forward as well. Talking of moving forward, let's talk Fulham. Another big clash away. It'd be nice to get some revenge given given last year's results as well. Sam, are you going? You going to Fulham on Saturday?
Sadly, I'm not going. I was there last year for the 5-0. Was that last year? 5-0 Dublin.
No, it was. It was last year. In fact, because I always allude to it that was my first week on this podcast taking over, and it was probably the worst week to cover. I don't know. Well, there was lots to talk about. Forest got spanked 5-0 and Steve Cooper left the week after, so there was lots to talk about. But yeah, I can always remember watching that, thinking, how on earth am I going to do a podcast about this tomorrow in the morning?
No, that one wasn't pretty viewing. So yeah. I don't know. They're going well at the moment. They're a very good team as well. So it's just whether it's the Forest team that turns up that played against Brighton, or it's the Forest team that turned up that played against Bournemouth, because they're two different teams altogether, really, aren't they? So hopefully it's the Brighton form that carries into the Fulham game, and we can continue on the upward march. And see how we go. But yeah, it's not going to be an easy game at all. They're a very good team.
Do you it's weird, Sam, and I was chatting to a mate about this the other day, and I was saying to him, and in fact he said to me, do you actually think Forest will finish in the Champions League places? Do you think Forest are going to be playing European football next season? And obviously, as the season goes on and we keep daring to dream, it still doesn't feel real, but do you have that real belief? I mean, in terms of the league, we're coming into this game, if you discount Exeter, an amazing win against Brighton, a club record win. So you'd be thinking that, Forest are going to be playing European football, and the signs are there, aren't they?
I know right now in my head, if Forest didn't make Champions League football, I'd be disappointed at the end of the season, which is crazy to say. Yeah. But I know that I would be, because we've had all this season where we've just been up there and amongst it. It's all anyone can talk about. Anyone that knows me that's not a Forest fan is all they can talk to me about. So it's been in the air for so long. It's just I would hate to see us kind of fall at the last hurdle. But it's just I've still got that mentality. It's like every week is so critical, and I think the next games we've got. This block of 4 games we've got is going to be really, really make or break. Fulham away, was it Newcastle away, and then City and Arsenal at home. Not in that order, but whatever order it's in. But those next 4 games are going to be crucial to if we come out of those with I don't know a couple of wins, then it's absolutely fine. But easily those teams are all fantastic, and we could lose all 4 of those games and find ourselves cut adrift from the Champions League spot. So it's my head just tells me not to get too optimistic, but my heart is just like we're just doing so well. Let's just keep going and be confident, and just get into the next game and win that one and move on. And I said to my mate, I actually watched the game in a pub yesterday with I play 5-a-side on a Tuesday, and one of my mates is a massive Arsenal fan. Yeah, we did. We won like 10-3. We beat everyone. It's fine.
Sign him up, Nuno. Sign him up.
But yeah, I play with one of my mates, and he's a massive Arsenal fan, and he is terrified about that Arsenal game. He's like, it's just got all the hallmarks of going and getting absolutely turned over by Forest. So it shows you what we've done and what everyone else thinks of us. So I think as long as we carry that confidence into games like that, then we act like we should be there, then I think it'll do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Forest are going to do it. I have this nice feeling. I tell you what, people moan about the fight for away tickets. I'm looking forward to the fight for European tickets and getting on Ryanair and trying to get the cheapest tickets.
Oh God, it's getting chaos, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like trying to get those £28 flights out of Stansted or something last minute. We'll have to get. I don't know. We'll have to try and get Michael O'Leary on this podcast, and you can do like a big Ryanair flight. I'm sure he'll put a few extra on for the Forest fans going to Ayia Napa on a Tuesday night in Europe. Well, that's if it was the Conference League, shall I say? Sam, give us a score prediction quickly, mate, for Saturday.
I'm going to go 3-1 to Forest. I think, yeah, like I say, you've got to be confident. We are one of the most informed teams, and we're just on the back of a 7-0 win. Irrelevant of what happened last night, that wasn't our starting team. Our starting team won 7-0 against a very good Brighton team. So, yeah, got to be confident. 3-1.
Absolutely, definitely.
What are you going for?
What am I going for? I think it'll be difficult. I'll go 2-1. I'll go 2-1 Forest. I think Fulham will score first. It won't be an easy game. Probably be one of the hardest all season. I think an even bigger challenge as well is the trip up to Newcastle a week after. That is going to be. I think it's going to be an interesting game for a neutral. This comment, just to kind of finish us really, from Will. Massive props to Exeter. They took us all the way. Good run out for some of the rotation and reserve players. Yeah, got to look at it like that, haven't we? Rather than look at the negatives of that game going on. I genuinely thought that game was never going to end. I felt sorry for Ali McCoy. He sounded freezing. Him and Seb Hutchinson in the commentary sounded
exactly. And also, you won't remember that game if we win the FA Cup. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you get there. If you lift the trophy at the end of it, that's all that counts.
Absolutely. A few things before we go. David from the podcast, you'll know Aussie Dave, actually sent me a text and said, Max, can you give a shout out to the Aussie supporters group who did the meetups in the capital cities recently, Brisbane, Perth, Sydney and Melbourne, the largest attendance ever in pubs, hundreds of Forest fans in an Australian meetup. That is nice, Dave. Hope you enjoy that one, mate, as well. I think you do it every week. So big up to the international Forest fans, Forest, literally, all over the world. I'll give him a shout out as well because I know he'll be watching. Shout out to my dad who's a big Forest fan, and he just had a hip operation in the last few days, so speedy recovery, Dad, and he's aiming to be back for the Arsenal game, so he'll be raring to go. Him and Taiwo will both be ready. Forest will hopefully give him some medical treatment.
I was going to say, is that medically advised if we're jumping around all over the place?
Well, probably not, but he doesn't care, does he? He'll be there. To be honest, I'm surprised he didn't try and get to Exeter away on the Exeter away last night with one working hip and a crutch, but there you go. So shout out to my dad. Thanks very much for all the comments. We were live on YouTube and Facebook, Nottingham Forest News and Galloway Red. We really appreciate it. Hopefully this podcast as well sounds a little bit better. We had a few comments about the audio issues last time. That was my fault with my microphone. So luckily our brilliant producer Dan, has sorted that out. I'm just the pretty face, I guess, that hosts it, and Dan sorts everything out behind. So we really appreciate Dan for that. We really appreciate you watching and listening. Give us a like, share and subscribe on YouTube and Facebook. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Leave us a review if you did enjoy. And we'll see you on Sunday for our post-Fulham stream. Safe journey for those down to London. And come on, you Reds. We'll see you soon.